Welcome to the show From Guilt to Responsibility with host Roni Maislish. This first episode is entitled The Psychological Roots of Addiction. And Roni is a clinical social worker and psychotherapist working for 20 years on the psychological roots of emotional eating, food addiction, and obesity. And it's great to be on your show. Roni, why don't you start us off? This is a big
Yeah,
topic, the psychological roots of addiction. Like, what does that mean?
yeah. So I think, speaking about addiction, I've been this year in two conferences, and like for 99% of the time, they're speaking about, chemistry, biology, numbers, protocols, but nothing about the psychology roots of, this disease. In your country, so many different kind of addictions. My specialty is about, food addiction or eating addiction, whatever. And I think until we will go into depth in a way to understand topic like emotional neglect, to go deep to understand why a person become addict. It's not like an accident, it's not like a miracle. There's so many, stops in the way that make a person an addict. And I think in your country, we are not speaking about that much. And that's a bit a shame. And, for 20 years, I'm working on this topic. And I think that to really understand and to really try to help people, you need to go more than doing psychotherapy, because it's like the disease is everywhere. So doing one-on-one work, it's not enough. You need like the nation need to be healed in a way. Yeah.
So when you say, so we're talking about all addictions, right? I mean,
In a way, there's people sometimes telling me that instead of eating or instead of smoking or instead of drinking, they will feel themselves in, reading or running. But it's not the solution, because they're always feeling this, emptiness inside of them. So it doesn't matter, because they can, avoid eating or avoid smoking for 20 years. But then if they're always feeling this emptiness and nothingness and nothing to feel meaningful in their life, so in the end, they will go on this and this addiction, and they will go back to their addiction, So there's nothing, it's always have some kind of, this, I don't know, this place in ourselves, have some hole, and you cannot feel it, actually. There's nothing to be filled. It's like bottomless in a way.
Is that the way to think about it, especially for men, that it's just not just, but it begins with some emptiness, some hole, something that feels like that's lacking, and then the addiction is filling that? Is that how we should visualize it?
I think on the surface, we can, start approaching that through that, speaking about meaningful, what is your, journey about, what is your, what is your present in life that you need to fulfill in a way. We are both in our journeys. But I think if we are going more into depths, we will face what Cohort from self-psychology was speaking about, that we somehow, somewhere, in our childhood, or it could be, later on, we went aside from our, path, we become more, in a way, isolated to our true self, natural self, spiritual self, nuclear self. It doesn't matter how you will call it.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey is go back to our nature, to go back to our true self, to our nuclear self. This is, the real important work, to go back. So you can call it, I need to be another person. I'm an addict, so I need to be a different person, another person. But the real, the real understanding that people needs to have, no, there's nothing wrong with me, but I went very far away from myself. I need to find new paths, new roads, new journeys to go back. And when I'm on my track, on my path, on my journey, it's very hard to take me out of my balance, right? So it's not about being brittle, this glass is brittle. It's more about being emotional strong.
Hmm.
If I'm this kind of a strong person, I'm going less and less and less out of my balance. And because of that, I need less all sort of addiction to bring me back to my, homeostasis in a way, to my balance. So the target of the cocaine or the coffee or the drugs or the cigarette or the food or the alcohol, it's the same. It's for a split of a second to bring me back to my balance. It's the same.
So can we click in there? So you said earlier about trauma. So is a childhood trauma an example of something that takes us away from our true self?
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, then is it when we take the alcohol or the smoking or whatever, is that filling a gap, or is that trying to make us feel more back to where I didn't like, how does that
Yeah.
fill the gap? Like if I have trauma from
Yeah.
childhood and I have an emptiness, like how does the addiction play into that?
The when you are using this, drug or alcohol or food or porn, it doesn't matter. There's some chemistry, channel in your mind that soothes you. All right. And through this soothing, you don't need to face all sorts of emotions, feelings, memories, and physical sensation. All right. I'm not, I'm not taking from my patient their drugs. I think it's very dangerous to take the drugs. I'm not in this, it's not my work. When I'm bringing them very gradually and slowly back to their nature and they become much more stronger person, something will change with their addictions. All right. But I'm not taking their addiction. It's very dangerous because, it's the only way for them to keep their balance, to feel sane in a way. It's like a doctor will take a person, their SSRI, their Prozac. It's very dangerous, right? So if I'm taking someone, their food, their cocaine, their coffee, the whatever sugar, it's dangerous. So this is one point. Do you want to speak about the guilt and responsibility, or later on in a few minutes?
Let's go to the guilt and responsibility. Yes.
I think when there's two ways we can speak about that. For the person himself, when he feel guilt, so guilt can take him to, self, absorb and staying very introvert, like being on the, how you call it, inside the swamp, and it doesn't help you to be in that swamp, all right? And responsibility is really to understand that, in a way, you have a problem, but in a way, I don't know if to say it's not your problem. You have a problem. You need to face it. But there is a way out of your problems. It's not a miracle. It's not an accident. It's a journey, and it's your own journey. You need to find your own journey. You need to build your life. And this is responsibility. I'm taking charge of my journey, and I'm, trying to meet the right people that can help me in my journey. And doing that, the journey between guilt and responsibility, actually, it's a journey to become a mature person, So this is, on the individual. But if we are speaking about families, when family of an addict person feel guilt, so, we are speaking now about empathy, all right? And, when I'm feeling guilt, the mother or father feeling guilt, but all the time, it's a problem. Because if I'm feeling a bit guilt, it's important, because the small part of guilt can take me to the responsibility. So I need to go to the empathy and feeling guilt, for the mother and father, and staying feeling this victim, this guilt, whatever. It's like I'm still with myself. I'm not with my son. You understand me? I'm still with myself. I'm still, feeling my guilt. Oh, I feel sorry for myself that I did that. It's my blah, 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 blah. But if I'm living myself, I'm not the issue here. I have a son that he's an addict. So then I'm going to the other side. I see my son as a subjective. It's not about myself, what my son, my daughter need. And this is, the new work about empathy and then the responsibility. The parents become responsibility and help his children, his daughter, to become a stronger person.
So are there steps along this journey? You made it clear that the first step isn't just taking away the addiction, like cold turkey. I think that's kind of what you said. So is there a journey that they take to get from this responsibility?
I think there are like 4 channels that a person can, heal himself or herself. One is through psychotherapy. So there are people that can enjoy psychotherapy. And from my experience, only to understand the root of the addiction. I want to mention like two items, like the emotional starvation, like to what I'm really hungry for, like I'm hungry for meaningful, I'm hungry for, life. I want to have, the right people in myself. I'm missing someone, so what I'm, hungry for? It's a very important question for people to ask, and the second question is about the neglect. So we're speaking a lot about, you mentioned the word, I mentioned, and then you, trauma. So a lot of people, it's a concrete trauma. Could be a rape, it could be an accident, it could be, people that, were in wars and suffering from PTSD. But I think in your country, the majority of people that suffer from addictions, it's not about a concrete trauma. It's more about very, 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 unseen trauma, like small trauma. And it's connected to this term of emotional neglect. So there are a lot of children, many, many, many children in America that received everything in their childhood, house, food, sports, money, everything. But they were lacking empathy. And if a person was lacking empathy, he don't have himself. And without having yourself, all right, you will be an addict, because a person cannot face a situation that he don't have himself. He need to deal. You will see people that they are not have some kind of peaceful in themselves. If you see a person that is very edgy, you can estimate that he don't have himself, that he was suffering from lacking of empathy. And then he need to do some kind of an acting out through addictions. So I'm saying all of that because I think that there are people that through the empathy of their therapist can really, change their life. So this is one track. The second track is through art. Sometimes people that, doing art can really change their, emotions and memories, and through this kind of creativity, find their, natural self back again. I had a patient that he was an actor, when he was a child, and then his father took him to the business field, and he was overweight and do smoking and other stuff. But when he started the therapy with me 5 years ago, asking, what did you really like to do when you was a very little child? He told me I was an actor with, adult. And it took me 2 years to convince him to go to an acting class. And something changed after that, because you could see that his creativity, through the acting class, changed his whole, relationship with people, with other colleagues. After another year passed, and he left, the business world, and he's now. It's very interesting, his process. So one is psychotherapy, second is art, third is nature. There are people that need to be in the nature most of their time, because the nature can have like a really important healing, energy in a way. So there are people that, just will go and just change their, do some kind of a relocation to the lakes in, I don't know, Nevada or whatever. And their addiction will, end, because this, climate, it's very help them to become more stable and strong. And the fourth channel is the transpersonal. Transpersonal, there are people that need to be part of something that is bigger than themselves, some kind of groups. I'm not speaking of, I'm not speaking about cults. Of course, you need to be very careful if you're going to the transpersonal, path, not to fall in cults. It's very, but to be part of, a group of artists, a group of whatever, friends, it could be, really meaningful for you. So if you're going to one of those roads, it can help you to really change your life. And in the end, it's actually you gain yourself again. All right, you gain yourself again. You have yourself. You can feel that you are living your own life. It's not your mother, what she wanted you to do, your father, what he wanted you to do. It's, it's your decision, it's your choices, it's your responsibility. But you took charge of your life.
And in a previous episode, you talked about men have to have purpose. Is this wrapped around this? Like, if I have purpose, then perhaps I'm less likely to feel a void. Can you just kind of talk? Because if I'm in nature, I'm not necessarily being purposeful. I'm in an environment that's soothing, for instance. Like, how does purpose kind of thread into?
You can find your purpose in the nature. You can find your purpose, in art. You can find your purpose in a group of, like-minded people that all of you working to the same direction. And you can find your purpose through psychotherapy. And I don't know, you can become, a lot of, patients in a way become psychotherapists because they enjoyed the psychotherapy so much. So they want to be also working in this field. But I think the purpose is very important because it gives you some kind of resilience. And resilience, it's like a medicine. It's like a cure for many, many, many diseases. Because a person that, getting up in the morning with his purpose, with his mission, with his gift, all of his energy is to the right direction in a way. And his metabolism, we are, in a way, first of all, we are machines. So if the machine is working, very efficient, and what is the other word? Efficient and I don't remember. This person will have less tendency to addiction because he's on his route, he knows where he is going, and he has a mission, and he knows that he don't have time to spare, to waste. You need to do that. Yeah, I think it's very important, but you cannot find, I think, it's interesting how you find, your purpose. You can find it, I like 22 years ago when I became a therapist, I found my purpose through a book. I was reading a book by your neighbor from Palo Alto, Ervin Yalom, right? When Nietzsche wept. And I told to myself, I must be a therapist because I felt in love with this, conversation in the book, but it took me 18 months I needed to leave the business world, and it's hard. I need to dream many dreams about that and to read other books. It's a journey. So you can find your purpose, like you can find it in the dreams, in the books, traveling, in psychotherapy. If you have a really good teacher, in a way, he can help you. But yes, I think purpose is, for men, it's crucial.
And when you start with from guilt to responsibility, so the guilt part is to recognize or not let ourselves drown in the guilt, because if we're drowning in the guilt, we cannot live our purpose. We cannot. And then what I think I heard was, once we do that, then if we can find those avenues, whether it's through psychotherapy, art, nature, a group, to help us start filling in those voids and have purpose. How does the trauma thing fit into this? Do I need to resolve any kind of emotional neglect, or, is that, it feels like it's still that elephant in the room, right? I mean, and you made the point that many of us, we're not veterans, and have serious trauma, experiences and stuff like that. Maybe we had a very nice childhood, and so, like, is that trauma part then a key linchpin, or can we get past it all without even addressing any of that?
Wow, the question is taking me to so many directions. I don't know where to start. First of all, maybe we can speak. Maybe you can later on ask me again part of this question, because it's like 4 questions in one question. I think, quote from the self-psychology. My work is self-psychology, psychotherapy, by a guy named Heinz Scott from Chicago, who was working in the 60s, in the 70s, mostly in Chicago. So he was asking his patients, so what was your childhood like? And if a person was answering, it was okay, like he was answering, my childhood was okay, I said, this is my patient. Because a childhood does not need to be okay. Childhood need to be, educated, and, that you can lean on your parents. Your parents can hold you and contain you and guide you, stuff like that. And if a person saying, it was okay, so this is a person that suffered from emotional neglect. And emotional neglect, it's the disease, it's the trauma, it's the complex trauma. So you're speaking about resolving, it's interesting, this word, resolve, or, to make it away, in a way. Yeah, let's fix it. In America, let's fix it. We can fix everything, but here, we are not only machines, all right? We are machines, but we are not only machines. We cannot fix our, emotional starvation, emotional neglect, but through going back to our natural self, nuclear self, true self, something changed in our trauma. It's less, control us in a way. It's there, the memory are there, but it's less, less bloody. It's like blood. It's less bleeding. It's less bleeding. All right. Yeah, you can say like that. It's less bleeding.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that if you first recognize it, you can start the impact, or the negativity of it, the strength of it can lessen.
I think recognizing sometimes can help, but most of the time it's not essential. So it's not about recognizing. It's not about understanding. It's not about being aware of the trauma. It's about changing your life, changing your lifestyle. You need to have a lifestyle. Sometimes totally lifestyle change. Maybe you need to have, relocation. Maybe you need to change your work. Sometimes you need to maybe leave your wife or whatever. So it's not like I will give my patient 10 minutes of meditation every evening. Oh, you will do that and you will be fine. No, to really cure your addiction, the psychology root of your addiction, you need to have, it's okay gradually, slowly, step by step, but it's taking care, you need to take care all of your lifestyle. All of your lifestyle, it's part of the healing process. All of that. You cannot avoid something there. You need to search, understand, and make decisions. All right?
Hey, Roni,
I'm more clear now.
I think we could keep going. I think we're set up for your next episode. I mean, this was incredible. Was there any closing thoughts you might want to share?
Please, for the people that hear me, watch me, stay optimistic. Even though addiction, it's like, it's a major disease and it's affect all of our lifestyle and our relationships. There are ways to go out from addiction. It's not a fix. It's not a magic, but if you will take your responsibility on your life and you will find the right people to work with you and the right friends to work with you, don't try to do it. This is, I think my understanding for the last 4 or 5 years since COVID. Don't try to do it by yourself. I think for now, in this era, it's not enough. You need to do it with other people. It could be colleagues or friends, and it could be teachers and therapists. It doesn't matter. But don't do it by yourself, and stay optimistic. Realistic and optimistic.
Wow, these are great closing words. All right. Thank you, Roni. I think we should close here, but we will see you hopefully in the next episode. This was
all right.
I learned quite a bit. You had me thinking about my own childhood. You had me thinking about my mom. You had me thinking about the fact that I play the guitar. It's because it's part of my therapy to myself. You had me thinking about all sorts of things. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. See you next time.